It's a minute gone past the hour of 9 o'clock. Good morning to you, Grenada, Carriacopidi, Martinique, and wherever you are in the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. Those of you in other parts of wherever you are in the diaspora, we say thank you and welcome to this episode of To The Point. For today, the fourth day of the month of October. Indeed, it's a pleasure being here with you. I'm Joseph Cadore, and I'm saying thank you for being part of today's conversation. I want to say welcome to those of you joining me on television, or if you're in classic radio, or if you're out there via the World Wide Web at www.gbn.gd, possibly on one of our social media pages, be it YouTube or Facebook. We want to say thanks for being part of the conversation. Be free to make your contributions, and we would say to you, oh, by the way, while we at it, I want to say to you, for those of you that's in social media, I know there's always the concerns that you ask whether or not your points have been considered. Yes, they are. I want to say to you that I always take them into consideration. I may not word it the way you were wording it, because sometimes on social media you tend to be very lengthy, but for the purpose of the conversation I would condense what is it you said, maybe turn it around a bit, but at least just want you to know your considerations are always, of course, welcome. My guest this morning, no stranger to the GBN. He is the chairman of the Wages Advisory Committee, Mr. Curlan Gilchrist. Mr. Gilchrist, good morning and welcome to The Point.
Welcome and good morning. It's a beautiful day. Yeah, it's great this morning.
Indeed, it is a beautiful day, and if it's not, I think by most parts it's nice and warm and sunny on the outside.
Yeah, and it's fitting. The conversation we are going to have, is in alignment with the day we have, man.
Well, great. It is a great day.
And when I came, I heard Christmas music playing, and it's a good sign. It's a good season.
It is a good season, I think, for me. I'm one of those old school kind of boys. Yeah, I old school color in a lot of things. I'm old school, and for me, I really and truly enjoy the season. And if you think I'm bad, I have friends of mine who probably wouldn't mind playing Christmas since June. Or they probably would not even stop.
Okay.
Or they may not even take down the decorations.
Yeah. And this is a good platform to talk about wages, right?
It's a good platform to talk about wages, because a lot of people is going to be spending, or they would like to spend, or they want to manage how they spend during the holiday season, because there's great anticipations for the new year. Now, Mr. Gilchrist, the conversation regarding wage increases, minimum wage increases, that is one that has been a topical one for the last couple of months. Where are we? Update us on the process. I know you started with consultations and so on, and give us an update as to where we are.
Yes, so I chair a committee of approximately nine members. We have three representatives from the labor movement, and also we have three represented employers and two government nominees. Interestingly, so I have is balanced in terms of gender. Yeah, so I have the employer representation is three men, and the trade union is three men, and the employers three women. So I have a good gender balance on the committee, and as I say that, let me take a parachute into a point in that one of the objectives is trying to neutralize this discrimination in gender as we look at pay and grade. So the committee was balanced. Yeah, so we generally set out to consult with the public and employers. So we met with all sectors, right? All sectors we met with, and we met with the employees, regular people, through the town hall meetings, and those were very exciting. Yeah, so one may say, okay, when you look at the town hall, those who were physically present, not more than 50, but the online attendance was tremendous. We had over 35,000, online views and so on. So there was a massive audience, massive reception. And I must say we are still continuing speaking to employers as I speak, right now. So the conversation continues with employers. Very tedious, numbers crunching, conversation as we engage employers and the tolerance, to an adjustment upwards to the minimum wage. So I'm very pleased with the participation and cooperation from employers. I'm very, very pleased. When they don't understand something, they call me, and I go and meet with them or any member of my committee. So I'm very, very pleased. I'm happy with the audience we are getting, and the excitement about the minimum wage. So I'm very excited about it. I think it's a good conversation to have.
It is indeed a healthy conversation. We want to move beyond the excitement, because anything that speaks to possibly getting more money is going to get anybody excited. But what I want us to move is away from the excitement and let's deal with some of the core issues. So you did say that the committee, trade union employers, there was also a number of course we heard it at these town hall meetings, right? At present, as of today, what's happening with that process?
Well, okay, so as I speak, the committee have made some initial recommendation to the government, and the government have looked at it and asked us to continue the dialogue, which we are doing now. So they are set of recommendations before the cabinet.
What are those recommendations?
Yeah, and those recommendations, if I can speak in generalities, identify some occupation that needed adjustment. Yeah, and also in that recommendation, we formalize certain baseline figures for certain occupation in certain sectors. Yeah. And also in those recommendations is the proposal to make sure that rates apply to all genders across all sectors. So the principle is equal pay for work of equal value. And also in those recommendations, we are seeking to not to discriminate, based on geographical location. So if you're a worker in a carpenter in St. Patrick's, if you take a job in St. Patrick, that job should attract the same pay as if you take the same job in St. George's. So that kind of disparity, we were seeking to address those. So it's not just about...
But is this a current concern? And how much of an issue is it?
Well, it is an issue because from the town hall meetings, the issue of the cost of working in St. George's when you're out at St. George's came up. Yeah, and there's a push towards trying to get a job in the south. Yeah, because it pays higher and all of that. So those issues came up, and there's a rural to urban push. Everybody pushing to the south. So it speaks to the broader issue of balancing the way we do development and balancing the economy. So in equalizing wages across all sectors, across geographical areas, we are seeking to neutralize that and therefore let other factors drive the demand.
So it doesn't matter where I'm coming from, whether or not I'm leaving the south to go to the north, I'm leaving the north to come to the south. If a day's pay is $1,
it is $1.
It is $1.
At minimum.
At minimum.
Yeah,
right.
At minimum.
At minimum.
At minimum. So that was one of the issue that arose. The issue of productivity came up, and I want to make a statement on this because I've heard a lot of conversation on the issue of productivity. Some people have said that the issue is not minimum wage, the issue is productivity. I want to advance the hypothesis that I believe strongly that when you increase the minimum wage, you're actually increasing productivity. I want to put that on the table and
well, as you said, it is a hypothesis.
It's a hypothesis.
I would probably want to disagree with you in some context as well.
Yeah, and I love that. And I'm currently doing research on that, right? And that correlation between increasing minimum wage and increasing productivity. But I can tell you, employers have been saying they want value for money. And there's a biblical principle. Much is given. To whom much is given, much is expected. And I can tell you, where we have adjustment in the minimum wage, once it comes into effect, employers will be demanding more from the employees. So the issue of productivity will be confronted head on with increasing minimum wage. Employers will not be demanding more. And they'll be introducing measures to ensure that they get value for money.
But many would ask, though, the whole conversation of employers wanting more, and I'm assuming central to that conversation is the reason why you had a strong presence of the trade union, so as to make sure that employers doesn't in any way take advantage. But many would ask, in the last 10, 15 years, you're part of any workforce, most employees will tell you they have been forced to put out so much more on salaries that have not moved in the last average 10, 15 years.
And that's a fact. If you remember, the last time this adjustment was made was about 2011. So in a sense, employers had a windfall, so to speak. Yeah? And I'm happy to report also to the nation that we have unanimous agreement across all employers that there is a need to adjust the minimum wage. That's unanimously agreed. The question is how far you adjust it, and that's where the discussion is. That level to which you increase it without it adversely affecting the profitability or the viability of the company or the firm. So there's an agreement that we need to adjust it. Yeah, the question is how far up. Now, what we found as we engage employers over the period since January this year, we have been engaging employers, is that there are some sectors where there are scarcity based on skills and so on, and therefore we did not recommend a minimum wage that translates into an increase. We simply looked at the market and settled on a base that in a sense does not affect the market. If you take construction, for example, yeah, or let us not construct. Let us take bus conductors.
Right.
This is an example. We met with all bus conductors.
And let me while we had it, because I know sometimes the English language, sometimes it can be used loosely.
Yeah.
I'm assuming when you say you met with all.
Yeah.
In terms of representation.
We met with the organizations.
With the organization, and the reason why
represent them.
Because the reason why I'm saying that even yesterday there was some concerns from Mr. Joseph as to whether or not, and I probably would want to ask you, because you did say the core committee consists of representatives from the representing the business sector, right? And I'm assuming when you said business sector, you were referring to private and
formal businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, private sector.
The private sector. So, and they were represented. But before we moved on to where you were, did you get a sense, are you satisfied that while you had representation from the business sector, the concerns of the general working force was being represented, articulated, and being brought to the fore by the representatives?
Yes, and I want to broaden that statement. The town hall meetings, that's where we met with ordinary citizens, and that's where they raise their concern. When we meet with employers, of course, they have their interests at stake, right? So those are the two conversations that we seek to balance. So when we meet with representative from the sector, like the bus associations, all right, we met with them. They speak on behalf of bus drivers and bus owners, and in a sense, bus conductors. But the ordinary conductor would have had an opportunity through the town hall meetings,
right,
or on Facebook or online to engage us.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was saying when we met with the bus associations and discussed the issue, we are conscious of their own economic situation and the state of the industry. So what we sought to do was to more or less arrive at a baseline or minimum wage that would not interfere with the market. That's what we sought to do. So, for example, in the law as it is now, since 2011, the minimum wage for a bus conductor was set at $35 a day. All right.
What was the basis? And you will find that I'm probably wanting to advance. Okay, just an hour.
Okay.
What is the baseline that is used? And because there's a lot of things that's happening in my head as we on the issue of the bus conductors, in terms of the bus fares, and how much one will earn, and how much one is earning. So let's talk about what are the factors that would give rise in terms of you determining what that minimum wage should be? I would assume centered to that would be the issue of inflation.
Yeah, okay. So there are some broad factors and parameters that we use. One was the inflation. And inflation since 2011 average around 18%. That's national inflation. But if we take food inflation, that was averaging 22-23%. And remember, the minimum wage have not moved since 2011. Yeah, so that was one factor. The other factor was poverty, and what we call the level of poverty in Grenada.
Right.
Yeah. Now we know that poverty. The last time a comprehensive study was done was, let us say, 25% based on the World Bank report, and that report did say that the poorest of the poor, that category is increasing, while general poverty, based on the report, would have been declining. The bottom of the poor, that group was increasing. Yeah.
And those figures you're referring to, that's from that's 2018.
Yeah, that's 2018.
So that's
report.
old figures.
That's 2018. Now, between 2018 and now, we have not done any direct study on it, right? But I'm just using 2018
as a base
poverty level. So so you look at the poverty, and so we look at the cost of living. That has been rising and keep rising. So cost of living, poverty. Yeah, those two factors, and the issue of inflation has to do with the real time value of money. $20 10 years ago, what can it purchase now? So, in attempting to adjust the minimum wage, we were conscious of those factors, and so we never use the term increase. We speak of an adjustment, so that to keep the value of money the same. Any increase must come from productivity and all that kind of stuff based on job appraisal and so, right? That is the increase, but an adjustment we are looking at. And of course, albeit we say adjustment, but sometimes it translates into an increase.
Right.
Yeah. So I make that point to say that with these parameters and principles, we approached our task that was given to us by the government of Grenada.
I'm noticing though that you're being very specific, and you don't want your words to be misconstrued. You're trying not to labor too much on that of saying an increase, because if you tell me I'm getting an increase, let's say in January, I'm thinking that I am moving from $5 to $10. You're saying adjustment.
Yeah.
Adjustment. So is it possible that when the adjustment is made, that some people may not move much at all?
It's possible, because making the adjustment, of course, we are considering the current market situation. Yeah, and in theory, wages should be determined based on demand and supply. And when that demand and supply, when you settle at what you get from demand and supply, that wage may be inadequate to allow somebody to earn a decent living. Hence, the state intervene to make that adjustment. So you can't leave it up to the market alone. We are a small economy, not many firms, right? In a competitive economy, the likelihood of wages and so being determined by the market is real and may be fair. But in small economies, you always have the intervention of the state, yeah, where the market doesn't give you a result that allow people to earn a decent living. So hence the issue of minimum wage. It's an intervention by the state to set a baseline, all right, payment for work done over a period of time.
Help me though, because I'm getting more. We've had the conversation about productivity, and I'm all for it. I believe if I work, pay me. If you get paid for an hour, for 8 hours, there should be a reasonable expectation as to what you should do within that. I'm getting the sense that because the argument of how our economy is structured, that what we're hoping to get out of Grenadians is to understand if I put out more in the context of what I'm reasonably being paid for, then that would translate to my employer being able to see an increase in his baseline, and hopefully if that happens on a bigger scale, there is growth on an economics in the economy that would allow for other issues. That's I'm getting a sense that's where we're heading.
That's where we are heading, and I just want to make the point that the minimum wage is just the baseline. We don't expect employees to remain there. It's just the starting point.
Right.
As you acquire skills, as you get experience, as you demonstrate your productivity and so on, the employer would reward you. I'm not saying all employers will do that.
That we're hoping that our employers appreciate what's happening.
Because the philosophical concept of the minimum wage really is to ensure that workers get a fair share of the wealth that is created. Right? It's a fair share. That's the philosophical context.
But that's just in principle.
What
happens in reality is a different conversation all by itself.
Yeah, and if the state realizes that the employers are not passing on a fair share, then they intervene. At the base level. But in a sense, the intervention, remember, you don't want to interfere in the market. You want to give an employer the opportunity, to pay based on qualification and skill and experience and all of that. So you don't want to interfere in that. But at least you want to set a base, a minimum. You see, legally, no worker should be paid less than that amount.
Less than that. You made reference to in constructions. Bus conductor minimum. They're being paid. Was it $35?
That's the current law.
That's the current law.
Yes.
Looking at some of the other in industries, what's the recommendation? Have we gotten to a point where we said, okay, bus conductors minimum present 35? We are recommending that it's moved to. Have we gotten to that point, or is that still?
We have gotten to that point because let's be real. There was something circulating, right? Yeah, which is real.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a bit.
So the recommendation is to move from 35, I believe, to 60. All right. Now that is comparing 2011 to 2023. The current rate for a bus conductor, the worst performing route, is approximately $60 a day. The worst performing route. Yeah. Now, so when we set it at that level, we are not interfering in the market. We are just formalizing what currently exists in the market.
Right.
If we had set it, say, at $80, $90, then it would interfere in the market, and you may see, bus drivers bus owners having to raise pay. But as it is now, it would not affect anything because we just simply legitimize the base, right, in the context of the minimum payable in the industry. The same way with the construction industry. All right. So there are a number of sectors where what is recommended would not affect pay. There are other sectors, yes, you would see an adjustment, and we could talk about those sectors.
About 5 to 10% of the employed population earns above $5,000 per month.
Yeah, that's a fact. And I could add to that.
Before that, now, what does it take? I mean, the whole, as an economist, because you're an economist by profession.
And also a statistician by profession.
Also a statistician. Yeah. And you've been around. As all things considered, the average Grenadian, in terms of what does it take and what is it required in terms of salary for an average Grenadian to live an average life that considers just their basic needs?
Yeah, so based on our research and calculation, we put it about $1,200 a month.
$1,200?
Yeah.
12?
Yeah, a month. A month. And I'm saying basic, right? So if you notice in our recommendation...
What is basic? I mean, 1,200, I mean, Curlan, I mean, Papa Budget, you almost make me fall off the chair.
No, in one of our consultation, one lady did make the point that she needs about $3,000 a month to meet her basic needs.
And I would reasonably agree with her. Curlan, I mean... Because you look at what's happening, and I've always argued that which you knew years ago, 20 years, 15 years ago, if you made $4,000 a month, Curlan, you were able to enjoy a reasonable life. That $4,000 now, because we're talking about the value of what you're earning. $4,000 now, if you ask me, and I'm telling you,
Yeah, but remember too, in valuing labor, there are a number of factors that go into valuing labor. So if you get $4,000 a month, your employer assess that's the value in terms of your contribution to that business. Yeah. So it's contribution and value. So I say 1,200. So we're speaking about at the lower echelon of the workforce, maybe on skill. Yeah, no experience, just entering labor force, first time, that kind of profile I'm speaking about. So you may start at 1,200 and in 5 years you could start earning a salary of $6,000 a month based on your upward mobility. So the intention is not for you to stay there. I just heard Trinidad, for example, the opposition is making a call for an increase in the minimum wage. The conversation is regional.
But for that, in order for you to see that shift that you're looking for, so let's assume that, because we have to take a break in just a bit, let's assume that shift, it allows and it speaks to the issue of employers rewarding employees. So as far as I start working now and I move up the ladder, I improve myself, fine. Central to that conversation is access to education.
Yes.
Or learning a skill. That we know. Even in trying to improve yourself, Curlan, that's a different conversation.
And before we go on a break, this is why when you look at the transformation agenda, right, it's attending to structural issues and trying to transform it, revolutionize it,
right,
so that people would be better off and enjoy a better standard of living. So the minimum wage agenda is just part of the overall effort of creating the conditions where Grenadians can live a better life. Okay, so we talk about raising minimum wage. Simultaneously, you would hear next year skills policy being put into place, free education, emphasis on skills and upgrading is all part of the conversation. The minimum wage just one element.
Okay.
Just one element.
And I'm happy that you're highlighting that because very often the conversation is taken in isolation. Okay.
That's why I'm saying, to whom much is given,
much is expected. 29 minutes gone past the hour in the morning time. I see the phone lines. I see you there. But we have to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll open up the lines as we delve further into the conversation and we chime in to see what's happening on social media as well. We take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back right here on To The Point.
Introducing the NIS Dream Loan, where possibilities are boundless and your aspirations are our priority. No matter where life takes you, NIS Dream Loans are here to make your dreams a reality. From purchasing your first plot of land or dream property to renovating spaces, building your home, and seamlessly switching mortgages, we cater to every step of your journey. And here's what sets us apart. We offer easy financing options with competitive interest rates, quick approval processes, and flexible repayment terms. So why wait? Apply now and let our dedicated NIS team guide you through this exciting journey. Visit nisgrenada.org/dream loan or call 440-3309 to book an appointment. Terms and conditions apply. Your dream awaits.
For a limited time, the NLA has dropped all of the 2X balls from the multi-X draw. This means that you, our valuable players, have greater chances of multiplying your winnings up to 5 times more in our 2X drop promotion. Yay! And that's not all. As an additional bonus, there will be fewer free play or FP balls to draw from too. Now you have more reasons to add multi-X to your playway bets. So, value your dreams, win your way, and multiply your winnings up to 5 times more in the NLA's 2X Dropped promotion. Promo runs until Friday, 20th October, 2023. Must be 18 years or older to play. NLA, making your dreams come true.
Welcome back to the program. It's To The Point for today, the fourth day of the month of October. My guest this morning is Chairman of the Wage Advisory Committee, Mr. Curlan Gilchrist, trained statistician and economist. So in case anybody's wondering whether or not the chairman is qualified to be part of this conversation, we say the answer is yes. We have to go to the telephone line because it's been buzzing off the hook. But before we go there, Mr. Gilchrist, as you would appreciate once there's any consultation of any sort, there are persons that will have concerns and objections. Speaking with Mr. Oliver Joseph yesterday as a representative of the New National Party, he did raise two concerns as it relates to the process thus far. We're going to play that clip for you from yesterday, and then we are going to get you to respond, and certainly we're going to then jump into the telephone line. So, Master Control, when you're ready.
Yeah, one is that the minimum wage is not done on a parish basis, on a parish level, because inflation is not done on a parish level. Inflation is national. Right? The increase in cost of living is done national, so I don't understand the rationale for the parish. That's the first concern. The second one is that for increases that has been recommended, where it is over 75% and more, up to 100%. My concern is for these areas may lead to a reduction in employment or no additional employment. And what you need is to create employment in an economy where unemployment is so high. That's my two concerns.
So that was Mr. Joseph yesterday on the program.
And that's unfortunate. But what I can say is that yes, inflation is national, but inflation is also parish level, because the data to calculate inflation is taken from supermarkets right through Greater Carriacou and Peter Martinique, and you put it together. So yes, it's national, it's an average, but it's what is real and what people face. So we have to use the inflation. It affects everybody. It's an individual pointing indicator. The second point he raised about the employment issue, we have in our conversation with employers all over Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Mat, because we have been to Carriacou, we have spoken to employers, and we are continuing to do that. Employers be concerned about any hemorrhaging of employment has not been brought to our attention. Most employers are very happy and they are cooperating, and of course in conversation with us, they are asking how can they apply it, what jobs are applicable, because sometimes the categories we have in the law is general. So they are asking how this will affect them, and they see the one time to make the adjustment. So this is why there's an attempt to bring into law these increases early as possible, so that when it comes into effect in 2024, employers would have had time to make the adjustments, and in terms of how they'll meet those increases if there are increases. So we don't anticipate any job losses. As a matter of fact, in one particular industry, they accepted the recommended adjustment upwards, but they asked for 2 years. To bring it into effect. So we don't. There is no indication from employers that there'll be any significant job losses.
But certainly, yes, when the conversation regarding minimum wage, that there is at various school of thought that, although it is mixed, is it a reasonable concern?
No, it's from our committee meeting with employers. The concern is not. Well, it may be mentioned, but it's not something that we should worry about. All right, that would have any dramatic or significant effect in terms of the labor market. So what I would say is that you may have one or two businesses that would have to make a major adjustment, and of course they realize that, and they are talking to us, and they are prepared to make the adjustment. And I'm speaking from facts, having conversation every day with employers, especially those that would have to make an adjustment, say about $200. And the adjustment we are speaking about, if any business have to make it, would not exceed $300 per month. Yeah?
Right. Per employee.
Per employee.
Right.
No adjustment will go beyond $300. And cases where it at $300, they did say that, oh yes, it's kind of steep, but they could manage it. Because businesses have told me that at the end of the day, they have a business to run, they have services to provide, and they'll make the internal adjustment. Because it's needed, they recognize that they need to make the adjustment.
But I don't want us to labor on it too much, though. But I mean, I still think, if you allow me, though, to remove you from your position as the chairman, and I ask you in the context of as an economist, right? And I hope you don't mind.
No, that's okay.
Because that argument is out there that okay, we can live with this increase now, but when you look at, let's say, our overheads, taxation, all of these other issues, taxes are rising. You have to do more, and employers are then asked to give out more. Have all those things been carefully taken into consideration?
Yes, so if I speak as an economist, and that is a good thing, because it means now that employers will be forced to look at efficiency. And what may happen in situations like this, you have what we call economic cleansing. If you are inefficient, you just fall into the industry, right? So, in other words, the market will readjust.
This calls for a new breed of Grenadians, a shift in culture.
So I'm just saying, yeah. So that's the economic argument, yeah, that the market would readjust, and in the readjustment, you may have fallouts.
But in readjusting, it means that when I get up to go to work every day, I need to understand I have to produce.
You have to produce. So that's why I've argued that it would help. It would help productivity, because there's a greater calling, there's a greater expectation. You are getting an adjustment upwards. I expect more from you. So employers will be conscious now, and I'm sure you would see the introduction of a performance management systems and so on.
That allows to gauge how
they have to gauge. That's where I see the conversation going, and how the economy responding. Yeah, because you need employers. One business one of the employers told me that, look, I can't lay off people. I need them. How am I going to satisfy my customers?
Well,
I need employees.
I hope that's a general conversation. But let's go to the telephone line. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Morning to you, sir.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yes. Yesterday I called in and I was getting a point over to Mr. Joseph in connection with the inflation rates in Grenada, which is not provided by the government of Grenada over 23 and a half years. He tried to turn it around and was giving me some information that the IMF and so on provides those type of information. Now, I believe now an independent audit should be done to get the rate of inflation, because we haven't had the rate of inflation. You see, what is happening really? The government is giving the IMF information concerning the economy. Now, that information cannot be proved good or bad. Cannot be proven good or bad. So they feed the IMF with information, and the information the IMF receives, they worked according to what they are receiving, which we cannot verify if what they are receiving is the correct information. We need an independent audit in Grenada to find out the rate of inflation. We need to know that.
Okay.
And he was trying to spin it around, and it is not readily available. He's trying to spin it around, but I know exactly what I'm asking. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
I just want to respond quickly. And as a former director of statistics, if I can read that out, every month the Central Statistical Office calculate the Consumer Price Index, and that's published in the Government Gazette. So, albeit it may be a bit late, but it's published. Now, the Consumer Price Index is what is used to measure inflation. So, any changes in the Consumer Price Index, it translates into if it increases upwards, is an increase in inflation, right? So that is what is used to measure inflation. That information is published in the Gazette, or should be, let me say, every month. It may be late. So we are in the month of October now. So if you go check the Gazette, or if you call the Central Statistical Office, they can give you the latest date, right? They have that index calculated for. That is information that's provided to the IMF and the World Bank and to anybody.
So it's not necessarily correct to say that it isn't. The information isn't available.
It's available, and I know effort is being put into that calculation. There's a very good methodology for the calculation.
How easy is it to put your head together to get that information? I just call.
Just call the office, and you can call 440-1369, and they will tell you the latest figures they have available.
We tell the latest figures.
Yeah, and they can break it down into inflation, food, different categories of consumer spending. So that, I just want to alert the general public that the consumer price index is available, and that is what they use to calculate inflation. Yeah?
Okay. We're going to go back to the telephone lines. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to both hosts and guests.
Good morning to you, sir.
Mr. Gilchrist, I'm enthused with the information I'm hearing there. Very good information, and I trust that this effort will enhance our capacity in this country to produce more of higher standards, etc. But here is a little concern of mine. Are we proposing in this effort, or this step, to categorize and classify all skills in this country through proper institutionalized training and so, to guarantee that when adjustments are to be made for the betterment of wages, etc., through merit, it would not be to the whims and fancies of who knows who, but through documented evidence, and I repeat, documented classification of the skills. To just clarify, learning to clean a urinal with a doodle bug is one aspect of janitorial services, but knowing the proper chemicals is at a higher level. Would people be classified in this way so that the worker himself or herself can be able to identify when they need or deserve an increase in wages? I hope my question is clear.
Thank
you very much.
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. It's a very, very good question, and it's something that we are looking at, and this is not just a Grenada issue, it's a regional issue. We do not have a dictionary of occupation. I think the OECS is trying to have a common definition of jobs across the region. So a carpenter in Grenada, is the same as a carpenter in St. Lucia, to standardize it. Yeah? And so therefore, the issue of job recognition has come up, and what constitutes it. So in other words, you're not really paying for the job per se, the job title, but you are paying for the knowledge and the skill that goes into producing that knowledge. So for example, these are technology now, yeah. But so it may take a shorter time to compute, but you actually rewarding the skill and the competencies, yeah. And therefore, we therefore what we are also promoting is the value that must be given to all classes of job, whether you're in sanitation or you're doing gardening. It requires skill. It requires competencies, and it's that kind of image we are bringing to jobs at the perceived lower echelon of the society, raising that profile. Yeah? So here's a point there. And this is a conversation that we are starting, and we hope that it will take off.
Good morning, caller. You're live.
Oh, yes. Good morning to you, and good morning to Mr. Gilchrist. Good morning to John Rulo. Yes, the question John raised is pertinent. But, so much other variance with respect to, we need increased wages, definitely, so wages is too small based on cost of living. Mr. Joseph raised a point in terms of the categories of work, and let's say you have people from hotels coming to work in them because they're centralizing. What wages would they pay gravitate to the center, even though you have an increased wages. So there will be unemployment there because people in the north and east might come to the south to get a job, and so they'll be unemployed. But my question, sir, is with all those things that you're saying, which is so true, I'm not hearing you talking about what method, what strategy we'll use to get the economy going. Because you see small population, high cost, and a static commerce. Commerce is not doing well. How would the employers employ? What part of the economy that will drive or create employment? No expansion. The business is not expanding. We're not creating mass jobs. How would this small set of business people in a small economy, high cost, small population, be able to produce that kind of wages?
Okay.
How would it happen?
Thank you, sir.
Without the expansion of the economy?
I appreciate the question. Mr. Gilchrist?
Yes, it's a good question. I mean, small economy, the issue of scale, economies of scale. So that's a fair question. So what should happen is the economy being efficient. You're looking for efficiency, and therefore resources will move to areas where it is most efficient and where you get the best rewards. That comes with certain fallouts, and it forces the population to upscale and upskill in order to survive. That's the nature of the market system we have, right? It's the nature of the market system we have, and you have government intervention to try to cushion some of the effects and bring equity into the system. If you don't intervene, the market system can lead to some results that are not acceptable. I'm telling you. So the state has to intervene where the market fails to provide equity. Because at the end of the day, you tell yourself, people, the citizens need to, have a wage that allow a decent standard of living. Right. The state intervenes there, but the market is not designed to produce that. It's all about profit and gains and rewards, not about how the distribution of that. No, it doesn't get into that. So you raise a good point, and it's something that economists grapple as they seek to fashion the development agenda. So it's a good point.
12 minutes on to the hour in the morning time. Of course, one second, one of those of you that is on social media. There is some conversation taking place on social media. I know we started talking. There's just so many different dynamics, elements we're putting together at the same time. We talked about the fact that the recommendation for bus drivers, bus conductors, the recommended pay increase from 35 to 60. Can we talk about some of the other classes and what the recommendation was? Somebody even ask about those in the debushing program.
Yes, and those are fair questions. I like those questions. Now remember, what may appear to be an increase is not necessarily an increase, because when I speak at the bus conductors, for example, if I'm compare the legislation in 2011 to 2022-23, it's an increase, but respect to what the market currently pays, there's no increase.
Because they're already earning that.
They're already earning it, so most of what we recommend is already being earned. Yeah, in some areas you would find an increase. I must see.
So let's say construction.
No, there will be no increase in construction, but what we have done is just to be consistent with what the market pays. So you won't see any increase in construction.
What industry can we see we can definitely say we're going to see increases in? In which industry? Which sector?
Well, many areas services. And let's take, for example, let's take a supermarket. Yeah? And those employees that do bargain and so, at the cash point.
Yes.
And the bargain, that's a service that they provide. And therefore, wages paid to these employees would have to be in alignment with what we are proposing as a minimum national pay. Monthly, $1,200. Daily, $60 per day.
How much are they earning now, though? Yeah, on an average.
Well, for my conversation with employees in that industry, $900, $1,000, depending on how long you are working there. And of course, the employers will tell you that certain occupation, on top of the basic pay, they have other incentives like tips and so on. Yeah?
So let me ask you though. So we want to take the conversation to where the minimum wage across the board is that of $1,200. So that no Grenadian should be making less below that. But then there is that argument, and the question then begs, what can sort of plans can we see being introduced by the government to deal with the fact that while there is that increase in the minimum wage, and we say that in a lot of cases some employees are not going to see any shift at all, but yet we have to deal with the question of the issue of the decline in standard of living and whether or not there's some local or external factors. In a lot of cases, it's external factors. How do we then cushion and safeguard the people?
Cadore, that's a very good question. I think you should be an economist.
I would love to know.
Yes, but it boils back to we have to produce. It boils back to production and productivity, and that's the only solution. That's the only way forward. We have to encourage Grenadians to be productive, right? And lessen our reliance on inputs, yeah, and a greater reliance on the results of our efforts at producing what we need. We have to go there. It's simple. It's simple, and I believe if you go there, you would see us enjoying a greater standard of living, all right, and being able to cushion our dependence on external markets and the international community.
So I'm seeing that this is in fact, is there, and I'm assuming once your rule is over, but I guess this is what specific to what the government is doing. But I'm assuming even if you think of it as an economist, that there should be now a short, medium, long-term plan that says to the people, the populace, this is the road that we're going to travel, this is where we intended to go, and this is what is going to happen along that path. Because I'm seeing
and you are correct, and stay tuned, listen to the budget and listen to the pronouncements going forward. You would see coming on stream a number of initiatives to complement what we are doing in the minimum wage, to help productivity, to encourage productivity, to raise standards. Yeah, you would see a lot of initiative in that area, and especially in the area of in education, for example, the emphasis on technical and vocational training, right? All aimed at introducing skills, because to be honest, for labor to really see an improvement in the wages, it requires some acquiring skills and competencies. That's the way the market is going.
And we have a caller that's online. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Yes, sir. Mr. Cadore.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, good. Yeah, what I'm trying to get at is that how is imported inflation dealt with? That's the first thing. The second thing is, what about goods that is coming into the country and is not passed through the system of the customs and so on? How and then it's sold in the economy. How that is calculated to get the proper rate of inflation? How do you calculate these streams coming into the country which is not passed through the official accommodation?
Okay, thank you.
I want Mr. Gilchrist to help me with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I understand the point he's making, and when we measure inflation, there is no indication of whether or not the goods are imported or produced locally. You just collect the prices, you monitor the prices on the shelf, irrespective of its source, right? But we know for a fact that a lot of our inflation is driven by imports, import inflation. And you notice what happened last year or year before with coming out of the pandemic with the hype in inflation. Right, the measure the government took was to give some reduce on the taxes in order to cushion that prices that were coming in, because a lot of our inflation is driven by imports, the prices of imports, because we have an open economy. So in controlling inflation, in taking measures to control inflation, one has to be conscious of the level of imports. That's one measure in controlling inflation. Of course, one could argue that wages could drive up inflation. And that can only happen if increasing wages is not by increasing productivity. Then what you get is inflation. That's economics theory. I pay you more money and you're not producing more, that's an inflationary act. But if I pay you more and you produce more, there's no impact on inflation.
But some is then going to argue that even in the realities that most employees are not going to see any shift, but they are required to produce more, because while the minimum wage has gone up, nothing else is happening for them. Then the reality is that can we say that we're looking down the barrel of a shotgun, that inflation is right around the corner, my dear sir? And that would be my final question to you.
That's a reality. That's a reality. That's a reality, Joseph. If you have increased wages and you don't have increase in output, that's inflationary. The definition of inflation is when you have too much money not backed by goods. So a pound of sugar is now worth $500. Yeah. So let's hope we don't get there. Let's hope with the increase in wages, employers would take steps to ensure there is increasing productivity, would put systems in place to get value for money. Workers being conscious of the recognition of an increased pay would put more out, and quality work. Let's hope that's where we are going, and let's be positive. There may be one or two fallouts, but I think people are they're doing their business, right? And therefore, when your costs increase, you make the necessary adjustments to ensure that you stay in the market, remain competitive, and you're able to get a good return on investment.
I think, given that we're in the spirit of the season, it would be safe to say it just brings to mind that song from Celine, that these are in fact special times. It is in fact special times. Mr. Gilchrist, we'll leave the conversation from here. We leave it here for now. We want to say thanks for being part of this conversation. We hope that it will be an ongoing one, that we'll literally be able to provide it. But I think what is needed and must be appreciated, though, that's central to this conversation is the need for us to produce more as a nation, as a people, that we get into this culture that allows us to realize, even when I go to work, that I must deliver at an optimum level. So at least I am happy as the employee, and your employer is happy as the one that's paying you.
Well said.
But we leave the conversation here for now. We want to say thanks to all our listeners, all our viewers, wherever you are. I see that the phone line is still going. Keep in mind that always hardly ever enough. But certainly, we want to say thanks for being part of the conversation. This little piece of rock is called Grenada. Let us do whatever we can to continue to address the issues that allow us to, as one people, to aspire, build, and advance. Until then, another place and time. So long, everybody. JC loves you. Have yourself a great one.